Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to Black Sabbath Week 2025, the week that's been delayed I don't know how many times, but hey, we're finally here. And today I'm going to give you my thoughts on Back to the Beginning, just yap about this whole experience, and I'll also give a tribute to Ozzy, and I do want to talk about this brand new Eternal Idol remaster too. Now, the whole reason I waited until November to talk about Black Sabbath or have Black Sabbath Week is because originally Earth, the Legendary Lost Tapes, that was supposed to be released in November. And if you remember correctly, it was originally supposed to be released in July, then Ozzy passed, they delayed it, and it was supposed to be for November, and now the fella who's putting that thing together, I think his name's Bill Coin, I think, he got into some kind of feud with Sharon Osbourne over something. I'm not really sure what happened there. From what I've read, Sharon and the Black Sabbath fellers, they didn't want Earth, the Legendary, the Lost Tapes. They didn't want that out, but I thought they did because it seemed like they were promoting it at one point. I guess they really didn't. I'm not really sure there. It's a bunch of like back and forth, back and forth. I don't really know whose side to take in that. It seems like a giant mess right now. And I was waiting for that CD to come out. Now it's not looking like it's coming out in America. You've got to import it. And the imported CD, that thing's like $27. And I ain't dropping $30 for one CD. So I don't have that to talk about, unfortunately. Maybe we can talk about it another day if that does release in the States. If it don't, I might end up buying an import later down the road. But I don't really want to invest in a $30 CD. It'd be cool to have as a collectible, but from what I've heard of the Earth Lost tapes, the songs from it, some are in really great high quality. Others, they sound like they were recorded in the ancient times, and they were recorded in the ancient times, and it shows. So, yeah, I'm not really rushing to get that anytime soon. I did get this, however, the Eternal Idol 2025 remaster. This was awesome. This is the best way to listen to this album. Oh my goodness, was this amazing. Because I never thought the Eternal Idol had the greatest production, I'll be honest with you. But this CD, it sounds amazing. And I bet the vinyl sounds great too. But this thing was so good, way better than the 2010 Deluxe Edition. If you've not picked this up and you love the Eternal Idol, you gotta listen to this. It's so good. It's really, really good. I highly recommend it. Best way to listen to this album. So I did want to bring that up. Now we're going to talk about Back to the Beginning. So they announced this thing in early 2025, and I really wanted to go see it in person, but it was just too expensive. It was like $4,000. The tickets were $1,000. They were also selling out everywhere. It was nearly impossible trying to find a ticket for this thing. And I just, yeah, I sadly don't have, I'm sadly not balling in money to go across the world to see Black Sabbath, and I unfortunately did not get to see it live. It would have been my very first Black Sabbath show. I never seen Black Sabbath before. I guess Baby Gabe could have seen Black Sabbath way back when, but he didn't like Black Sabbath outside of Iron Man. That was really the only song he knew by them, and he wasn't really into music like that way back when. But yeah, sadly I never got to see Black Sabbath. It is a tragedy. I was very sad, but I did watch it on the YouTube. I didn't get the pay-per-view, and there's a whole story about that. So originally, when they announced the pay-per-view, I was gonna get with my friends and we were gonna watch it, and one of my friends, Ashley, she was gonna either Uber or get her friend to drive 4 hours down here just to watch that with me all day long. But then about a week before Back to the Beginning, she messages me and goes, "Hey, I lost my ride." And so unfortunately, she didn't get to see it, and I didn't order the pay-per-view because there wouldn't have been anybody here. It was just me, and I just watched it on YouTube because I knew somebody would post it. But I really enjoyed Back to the Beginning. That was a incredible concert. I loved it. Just like all the performances. The main thing I wanted to see though were the bands and artists, their Black Sabbath covers. I didn't really care that much about the original songs because you can go other places and you can obviously see the bands live to see them perform their own songs, but I wanted to see their Black Sabbath covers. That's what I was into, and I was really impressed, and I had a really fun time watching all those performances. Well, most of them. I think there were like 2 or 3 performances I didn't see in full, but I saw most of it, and I do have it here on my phone, like all the performances, and I don't know if these are in the order of the performance or how are these are sorted or what, but I'll just go down the list and I'll tell you what I thought. So Mastodon had Black Tongue, Blood and Thunder, and Supernaut. I love their cover of Supernaut. That was awesome. Rival Sons, I didn't see. That was one of them I didn't see. Anthrax had Indians and Into the Void. Oh my goodness, was that amazing. Oh, that was great. I love that. And then Hailstorm, I didn't see the Hailstorm one. That was another one I didn't get to see. Or the Lamb of God, I didn't see that. I did get to see, like, the super groups, though. And, first you had Ultimate Sin with Lizzie Hale on vocals. She killed that. She was great. She was awesome on that song. Then you had Shot in the Dark by David Draymond. I don't want to address the elephant in the room, but, I actually really enjoyed David Draymond's performance of that song. He wasn't welcomed by everyone there, and, we're not gonna get political here, but, yeah, that did happen, and a lot of fellers said he killed the vibe. To me, somebody else killed the vibe, but we'll talk about that more later. He also covered Sweet Leaf. I thought he did incredible on that song. Then you had Believer. I forgot who covered Believer. I don't remember who that was, but I remember that one being good. I just don't remember who it was. And then you had Changes, which was done by Youngblood. I thought that was good. It wasn't my favorite performance. I know there were some fellas saying that was the best performance of the night outside of Black Sabbath, but I mean, he did good, but it wasn't my favorite. I'm gonna act like that was my favorite performance. Then you had Alice in Chains. They were incredible. I love Alice in Chains with William Duvall. They did Man in the Box, Wood, Fairies Wear Boots. That was incredible. That was awesome. Then he had Gojira, and they did Under the Sun. Man, that was magical. They were so good. I loved when they covered that song. That was awesome. Then you had more of like the supergroup kind of thing where a bunch of fellers just got on stage from just all over the metal and rock community. And Symptom of the Universe was this drum kind of like drum off between all these different drummers. Why didn't they pick Rat Salad? I would have preferred if somebody just covered Symptom of the Universe normally, not having a drum off on it. But I mean, that was cool to see, but I just think they should have done Rat Salad for the drum off. That would have made more sense. Breaking the Law and Snowblind, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was Billy Corgan on vocals, I think, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I watched this, but I think that was Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins. Those are pretty good. Now here's what killed the vibe for me. Flying High Again and Rock Candy with Sammy Hagar on vocals. What in tarnation happened to Sammy's voice? He sounded horrible. Oh my goodness, did he sound horrible. What happened? Like, it was awful. It was like, ugh. I don't know what happened to his voice, but he did not sound great at all. And he just ruined it. He killed the whole vibe, and I was just like, ugh. If I was there, I would literally just been looking at the stage like, it was bad. It was really, really bad. Then he had Train Kept A-Rollin', Walk This Way, Whole Lot of Love. That was by Steven Tyler, and he sounded great. For some reason, I thought he couldn't sing anymore, because I think that's why they canceled those final Aerosmith shows, is because he couldn't sing. But he sounded great there. I don't know if he's been, like, training his voice or what was going on, but he was great. I thought he sounded amazing. Then he had Pantera. They had Cowboys from Hell, Walk, Planet Caravan, Electric Funeral. Pantera were great. I love that. Then he had Tool, and it was Pro Shot Tool. That's rare. You never see that. And that I watched their full thing because you just don't see Pro Shot Tool like that in a live setting. That's so uncommon. They don't even like when people take out their phones and record them. So for them to agree to that, you ain't ever gonna see that again. And they were incredible. Slayer were otherworldly. That performance, that was so good. And having Wicked World in between War Ensemble and South of Heaven, that's how you incorporate a cover into one of your originals. That my jaw dropped when I saw that. That was awesome. Then Guns N' Roses, I didn't think Axl sounded that bad, but his voice obviously isn't what it once was anymore. But I was just so happy to hear Junior's Eyes and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. I mean, I love Junior Size. That's my favorite Ozzy song. And for someone to play that at Back to the Beginning, that made me happy. I didn't care that it was Guns N' Roses. I'm not a Guns N' Roses fan, but it did make me happy to see someone play Junior Size. Metallica were incredible as well. They did Johnny Blade from Never Say Die. I was very shocked that they played Johnny Blade. I was expecting them to do like Sabracadabra, but no, they pulled out Johnny Blade. That was a welcomed addition. And doing Hole in the Sky, that was great. And then Ozzy came out, and I didn't know what to expect. You know, I'd seen the press where Ozzy didn't know how much he could sing, if he was even singing anything. He said at one point it might be bits and pieces. He didn't really know. And then he comes out there. He goes into I Don't Know. He sounded amazing for just everything he'd went through. He gave it his all. He sounded incredible. I was not expecting his voice to be like that, but man, he really did go out with a bang. That was incredible, and it does get me emotional now to watch those performances again, just knowing that was the last time he'd ever be on stage. And wow, I have no words. I was just speechless watching that. Just seeing Ozzy, especially with when the Black Sabbath portion got on there, like I was holding back tears. I was so emotional just seeing that, and just seeing the crowd, and it was magical. And I could only imagine experiencing that in real life, just feeling the atmosphere of that whole stadium. Like I don't even know what that would be like, but man, that was powerful. He did I Don't Know, Mr. Crowley, Suicide Solution, Mama I'm Coming Home, and Crazy Train. When he went to Crazy Train, I was fighting back tears. That was so good. And then finally, you had Black Sabbath doing the final performance. War Pigs, NIB, Iron Man, and Paranoid. Just knowing that was it, I mean, they were just, that was awesome. I don't know what else to say. There aren't enough adjectives to describe how happy I was seeing that. It's a shame none of my friends could make it over, because, like, man, I do think if my friends are ever, we'd all just be, like, sobbing. We'd be like, that's so beautiful. But I love Back to the Beginning, if you could not tell. I don't really have words to describe how much I love that concert, but I loved it. I loved every second of it. Even for the bands like I wasn't crazy about, I still enjoyed seeing their Sabbath covers, and I even enjoyed seeing Sammy Hagar, even though he sounded horrible. But, you know, one bad performance isn't bad enough to ruin the whole experience for me. It's just that one little section was pretty bad. But I was a huge fan of Back to the Beginning. I watched that final Black Sabbath performance quite a few times. That's the one I watched the most out of, like, all of them. It was just so cool seeing all those fellas back on stage one last time. Even though Bill Ward took his shirt off, I didn't want to see that, but... And that truly was the final Black Sabbath show, because, just 17 days later, Ozzy sadly passed away, and man, I was shocked. Like, it's just one of those deaths that are just so surreal. It doesn't feel real to you. It just feels like a dream. I didn't expect it to be that sudden. I don't think anybody did. And it just was, it was heavy. And it was, unexpected. And, wow, it was, you know, I'm just glad he got to have one final performance. I'm glad he got to see the fans one last time. I'm glad he got to reunite with Sabbath and people from his solo band. I'm glad he got to have that moment. But wow, for it just to be that sudden, just like 2 weeks later, I think, and he's gone. It's crazy. You know, that morning, I was listening to Speak of the Devil and Live Evil, trying to decide which one was my favorite. And so the last Ozzy album that I heard was Speak of the Devil. While he was still alive. It was that morning, like before he passed. That was the last Ozzy's album, or anything that had Ozzy on it, that I listened to. And let's see, I'm trying to think. I'm from the Eastern time, and it was around like 9 or 10 a.m. I don't think he passed till 2 p.m. Eastern time, but around like 9 or 10, I was working on Faith No More, like the album, like ranking the albums. Well, not ranking the albums, but ranking all the songs off the albums. I was doing that for all the Faith No More albums I had heard recently because I listened to like all 5 of the Mike Patton ones. I think there's 5, right? 5, I think. Yeah. And I was ranking all the songs off those. And after I did that, I took a nap and I put my phone on the charger. And that was around like 12 or 1 p.m., I think. And I wake up at 6 p.m. and my phone is blowing up with notifications. There's Discord notifications, there's YouTube notifications, and I checked Discord first because that's like where all my friends are. And I checked it and I saw Ozzy has passed, and I'm just like, what? Like I'm like, no, that can't be real, right? That can't be real. And so I Google it and then I see it, and I'm just shocked. I'm just like, it just didn't feel real. And it was so surreal, and wow, like Ozzy's gone, like it just, even saying that just didn't feel real, because like my whole life Ozzy's been here, and for him to just suddenly, that was it. He did his final show and then gone. Ozzy's music meant so much to us. We all knew he wasn't in the best health in the last few years, but I don't think anybody expected his passing to be that sudden. And I think that's why it was just so unexpected, is because, like, I didn't think that Ozzy'd be gone that fast. I knew he wasn't doing the best health-wise, but I guess we just truly didn't know how sick he really was. And now they've got documentaries out chronicling the last part of his life. I watched one of them. I'm not ready to watch the other one because I don't. It was really hard for me to see just how sick Ozzy really was, and how Parkinson's and his just all these health issues that he had, and how much it took out of him physically, and he could barely walk. He had to pretty much learn he had to learn how to walk again. I saw that part. It was heartbreaking. It's just, I didn't want to see Ozzy like that, And I don't think I'll ever watch that other documentary they put out about him. And it's still hard to this day to really, you have to sit there and you're like, yeah, Ozzy's gone, And I know it's cliche to be like, well, he lives on through his music. That's true. He'll live on through his music forever. He'll live on through the videos of him and the clips of him, all that stuff. He'll live on through that. But him physically being here on this earth, it's still hard to believe that he's not here, Because I would always think that Ozzy's going to be here, I know that's not realistic to think that way, but he's just one of those characters, those larger-than-life figures you just never think are going to go away, and then all of a sudden one day, he's not there. And it's very similar to what happened to Ace Frehley, which I have his thing back there. He passed 3 months after Ozzy did, and that was heartbreaking as well. We've lost so many talented musicians this year. We lost Ozzy, Ace Frehley. I forgot the fella from the Moody Blues. I think that's what that band's called. We lost him. We lost the bassist for Limp Bizkit. We lost there were some other fellers too we lost this year. But it's just hard when you lose musicians that you like, and like you might not like know them personally, but you do know their music and you grow an attachment to them, especially if you've been listening to them since you were a kid. And like, or you go way back with them, you're just emotionally attached to these people, even if you don't know them. They play their music or the soundtracks to your life, and you resonate with them so much, and they mean so much to you. And when you lose them and they pass, it's hard, Obviously, my thoughts and prayers do go out to his friends and family, and everyone who knew him, and just like, especially his family. I know that was very hard for his children, his grandchildren, especially Sharon Osbourne, for them to lose Ozzy, especially Sharon, because that was the man, that was her husband, that was the man that she loved all those years. She stuck with him at his lowest and his highest points, and she loved that man so much, and she stayed with him all those years, even though sometimes he was difficult to work with. He had his problems, but she loved him no matter what. And I was so disappointed with all the negative comments on social media of people being like, oh, suddenly everybody's an Ozzy fan. Feller, you do know Ozzy was one of the biggest metal people, right? It's not like he was some underground artist. Yeah, people all around the world loved Ozzy. That's not like It's not like Ozzy was an underground artist before all this. But I am really glad that Ozzy got to have one final performance in front of everybody, and he got to go out the way that he wanted to. I mean, can't ask for anything more than that. He got his wish. He got to perform one final time with Black Sabbath and with people from his solo bands and people all around like the metal community. It was just a celebration of Ozzy and his life and all of his accomplishments and heavy metal as a whole, a celebration of that in that one day. I know some fellows were saying, I know that people were saying that Tony Martin and Ian Gillan and Glenn Hughes should have been there. I think Tony Iommi wanted them to be there, but I get it why they didn't want them there. Because the day was about Ozzy, and having those other people there, that would have taken the focus off Ozzy. And it was supposed to be his special day. I get it, like wanting the other Sabbath people there, but I understand just having Ozzy himself be there. And those are my thoughts on Back to the Beginning. What did you think of the performances? Did you love them? Did you not like some of them? What were your favorites, your least favorites, your favorite cover song performed, or your favorite Sabbath song performed, or your favorite Ozzy song performed? Let me know all that stuff down below. And take care of yourself. Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne, and go listen to Black Sabbath.